if you want to just use the out of the box and get started and at least know that you're doing something that a lot of tens of thousands of other landlords are doing. It gives some comfort, I think, to knowing you're getting to build it off of some of the past knowledge that's come before you.
Welcome to Multifamily Insights. I'm your host, John Casman, and I want to thank you for joining us for another great episode. If you're enjoying the show, do me one little favor and tell us about it. Tell us about it. Leave us a rating and review so we can hear what you love about the show, but also get any feedback to make you work harder for your investing goals. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. We've got a great show today. We're going to be talking to Ryan Barone. They say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you want to grow as a multifamily investor, you have to spend more time with other multifamily investors. And an easy way to do that is to join our apartment investing mastermind group today. Just go to casmancapital.com and click on the mastermind button. Now, as a part of this group, you'll get access to expert trainings, group coaching calls, industry news and updates, as well as all of our webinars and workshops, including our 3-hour workshop on raising capital. Again, if you want to be around other multifamily investors that can help you scale your portfolio today and grow your network, make sure you're a part of the Apartment Investing Mastermind. Just go to casmancapital.com and click on the mastermind button today. Ryan Barone is CEO and co-founder of RentRedi, an award-winning powerhouse property management software that transforms the way landlords and tenants manage their renting experience. Now, while managing a full-time job and college courses, Ryan began building RentRedi, a modern end-to-end property management software that helps landlords collect rent, list and market properties, screen tenants, and sign and store leases. Let's welcome to the show, Ryan Barone.
Hey, thanks for having me, John.
Hey, Ryan, I went over your bio at a high level. Why don't you take 2 minutes and fill in some of those gaps?
Sure. So like you said, I started when I was in college. I was at Pace University in New York City, double majoring in economics and math. I minored in computer science. I had gotten my first internship and was all excited to move out of dorms, get my first apartment, live in New York City for the summer, all bright-eyed for it. And I lost out on an apartment. I was not ready. I did not have the documentation I needed to apply to that apartment. And I really realized that there should be an easier way for myself and even friends to apply to apartments. And so the initial go at RentRedi was just building an app myself for me and friends and anybody else I knew to apply to apartments more easily. And what I ended up finding was I just so happened to be interacting with independent investors, independent landlords that were managing their own operations. And as I talked to them more and more, realized they were telling me, hey, our site's just as bad, if not worse. And it's not just applications. If you could help with the whole process of managing apartments, from listings to, yes, the application and screening process, but collecting rent and maintenance and communication, it would really help us. It would really help ultimately you, what you're going after as well. And so I really fell in love with, building it for both sides. Actually, landlords are really who we primarily work with first today and ultimately create a great experience for them and their tenants. But I've spent about the last 6 or 7 years now building RentRedi. Adding all of that did not happen overnight. First 2.5 years were just my co-founder, myself, totally bootstrapped. And then over the years now, we've grown to about a team of 40 and about $15 billion in assets under management across all the landlords actively managing on the platform today. So it's been a great ride. It's been a lot of fun. I've loved getting to build, software that helps people solve problems, managing their properties more efficiently, more easily for themselves and a good experience for the tenants at the same time.
Yeah, man. I love when you hear these stories where it started with, a problem for yourself that you were looking to solve, missing out on that apartment, realizing that the process, you took ownership that you didn't have the documents, but the process was a little bit, cumbersome, and you figured out that, hey, there should be a better way of doing this. In that process, you ultimately came to develop RentRedi and realized that the process is actually really, really muddled on the other side of the equation for those property owners as well. And today you've got over $15 billion worth of assets under management within the RentRedi platform and have 40 employees. Talk to me a little bit more about, the actual platform, because I think for larger commercial investors, there are various platforms that you can tap into that acquiesce those needs. But when you are more of an independent investor, it's hard to get kind of that all in one software or that program that allows you to vet tenants, collect rent, handle maintenance issues. So talk to me a little bit more about kind of how the platform actually works from that standpoint.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that was really what I started to see more and more as I went to different real estate investor associations and meetups and talking to more landlords. Is basically you had this software out there for massive property management company, tens of thousands of units. If you're this individual that was trying to grow, start, scale their portfolio, it was a lot harder to get your hands on software that would actually make it easier, less time consuming for you to actually manage that. And so that's really where we focused all of our efforts is most of the time landlords that are coming from pen and paper and spreadsheets that are saying they want to grow, they want to scale, they want an efficient way of doing that. And it starts either from a vacant unit or an already filled one. And it takes you all the way through. So they can syndicate it out to different listing platforms directly from within RentRedi. They'll be able to pre-qualify and qualify tenants with screenings, ultimately do the digital lease signing right on the platform, handle any of the rent collection once that tenant's in the unit. And that includes as you know, depositing funds to different accounts if you need to keep security deposits separate, or if you're creating an LLC for each property that you own to try to separate the liability associated with all of those, trying to make all of those manual tasks a lot easier, automated late fees, automated rent collection. So it's just taking out the manual work along the way. And then even handling the maintenance along the way, whether you want to do it yourself or we give options for you to delegate it out to other people. And then ultimately, communicating with your tenant until the point at which you either re-sign them or start back over with the listings at the top of the funnel there and find your next great tenant.
No, I love that. If folks want to learn more about the platform, you can go to rentredi.com. Ready is REDI, so rentredi.com. I think it's very interesting when I hear stories like yours, right? You were in college, had this issue, developed kind of this platform, and here you are growing this thing to what it is today. Talk to me about just that journey, being in kind of prop tech and, getting investors and then getting clients, actually having a viable product, which I know so many people have theories or ideas, which are great, but to make that a profitable business is usually a harder endeavor. So kind of walk us through maybe some of the challenges you faced as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, it wasn't glamorous, I'll tell you that. In the beginning, I had graduated. I was working a full-time job. It's not too different than a lot of the landlords on our platform. I was juggling a full-time job, and RentRedi was my moonlighting. Like a lot of the landlords on our platform, managing their properties is the same. And I was living with my sister in a studio apartment, programming RentRedi at night, literally in a studio. I'd go out into the stairwell so the light on my computer wouldn't keep her up at night. And eventually just got to a point where I said, okay, I need to make a decision. Either I'm going to do this full time or I'm not. I'm going to work at 7 a.m. every day, coming home at 10 p.m., working on this till 4 a.m. every night. And so I started working on RentRedi full time around the end of 2016. Was fortunate enough, my tendency, my lean in the company was towards the technology side of things. I'd gone through this whole experience with my dad as a guarantor, and his experience was on the sales and marketing side, and said, hey, why don't we do this together? It would be a lot of fun. We have built all of RentRedi together, and it's been a lot of fun to get to do that as a son and father team. But for the first 2.5 years, it was just him and me. And in a lot of ways, I think that really helped. Every chat message that came through, phone call that came through went to our cell phones directly. You were talking to us. We were building the platform based on that feedback. And I still attribute a lot of the way our whole team operates today to that same mindset of like everything we build comes from someone on the platform saying, here's a problem I have. Here's an idea of how I think it could solve it. Can you help build something that makes this easier for me or makes it easier for my tenant? And we've gotten a lot of great ideas out of the landlords and tenants on the platform over the years. A lot of them, have even helped each other. Like we had landlords that initially come to us saying, hey, you're collecting rent for my tenants. I want to encourage them to pay rent on time during COVID. And the same time we had tenants coming to us saying, could you help me in some sort of way for paying rent on time? We built out this credit boosting where basically we allow tenants to build their credit just by being on time with their rent. It becomes a great benefit to landlords. They're happy to get their money when they should get their money, and tenants are, happy to build their credit for paying that rent on time. And so that idea of really building the platform based on, the feedback that we're getting from people continually, and then improving it every day on that has been constant throughout. But we did our first round of venture funding in fall of 2019. That was honestly the first round for me, for my father as well. So it was a completely new experience for us, learning experience for us. We've done a few since then. I like to think hopefully gotten a little better at them since. But it's definitely been, a constant learning experience of, how each round works and what you need to know to do the next one, grow to the next stage, build a better platform that helps more people.
So just to recap some of that, you built this at night after working the full shift, middle of the night in the stairwell. I have this visual of you in this stairwell, people getting past you, maybe a little bit inebriated, trying to get past this kid with his laptop in the hallway, right? But you kind of did the grind, you put in the work and the effort to grow this thing, partner with your father on that based on the experience that he had. And then ultimately in 2019 took your first round of venture capital funding, and have been able to grow and scale this business since then. Before that first round of venture capital funding, it sounds like this was bootstrapped, just capital from you and maybe your father investing into this. I mean, what was that process like? I mean, did you all just kind of put up your own capital? Did you have a little bit of savings that you put in there? Like, how did you fund this initially?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty much out of savings. And it was, for a little while, it was all right to stay there. At one point, I had to move back home. Like I said, it wasn't glamorous in the early days. Eventually moved back home, was living there, programming RentRedi, literally 7 days a week, all day, all night, working on it to build it to something that ultimately people started using. And it took a while, to build something that a lot of people liked. It in retrospect, it's really exciting now, tens of thousands of landlords, all 50 states, but it didn't start that way. There was a lot of time that passed in terms of building something that, really fit a need and fit it well enough that people said, this is something I need to be using for myself, and then referred it to others and so on.
Yeah. How did you go about networking or getting this in front of property owners?
Honestly, a lot of it was there was Meetup at the time. Meetup.com was bigger then, in my mind. So I was going to a lot of meetups. We were going to real estate investor associations in person at the time. This is all pre-COVID. And really was just meeting with landlords, understanding what are the problems you're having. Why are you using pen and paper and spreadsheets versus using something else? And a lot of it was really insightful. Like a lot of people would tell you, I don't want to feel like I'm taxed for my growth. I can pay for spreadsheets or pay for QuickBooks. I have a fixed cost every year. Even if I add another unit or scale 5 more. And it actually became the impetus for our pricing plan, was that we said, you're not going to pay more if you add more units, which is completely counterintuitive to if you were trying to build something for the larger enterprise market that had been around for years, was all this per unit pricing model. And everyone told us we were crazy to say you're going to pay a fixed price as an investor, and it's going to be basically $9, and you're going to be able to put as many units as you want on this. But it ended up really working, and it really fit what people were looking for, not just from a feature set standpoint, but also from a pricing standpoint, from a financial standpoint of what they were trying to do.
I think there's a lot of insight there, because if you can talk to the customer, right, and talk to the audience, and in this case, we're talking about property owners, you can understand what those challenges are. And yes, there may be other solutions in the marketplace today, but there are also drawbacks. And you hit on one big one, right? It's like so many platforms their pricing model is based on the unit size, and it's discouraging that, oh, okay, as my business grows, I'm going to have to pay more for this service. And that
Right.
may be the thing that stops someone from using it in the first place. And maybe they never even grow, right? Maybe they never even have that issue, but it's just the thought that, okay, we're not really aligned in our interests, because, you're going to make more money, only if I grow, but it's not really allowing me or putting me in position to do that. So I think
Right.
it's really interesting when you think about your model and some of that feedback. Let's go back to kind of RentRedi more specifically, right? So when you think about the platform, how does it, who's it for? So we talk about that independent owner, but is there like a
Mhm.
unit count where it makes sense? Is there markets that make sense or don't make sense? Give me a little context for who the ideal user is for this.
Yeah, so I like to say the range roughly is, I mean, we have a lot of landlords as small as one single family home to around 100 units. We have some people that go above that, but really who we built it for is that sort of 1 to 100 range. Surprisingly enough, even though I was building it for myself initially in New York, it actually has been very well received in a lot of different areas that we never initially set out realizing it would help as much. So geographically, there really isn't. We have tens of thousands of landlords, all 50 states, Virgin Islands, Guam, Puerto Rico. I guess the only geographic constraint right now is not outside of the US, but within the US, rural areas, suburban, metropolitan areas, it really doesn't make a difference. There's a lot of benefits, whether you're someone that's used to driving 15 minutes to pick up cash and checks from your units, and you just want to collect that online, have it automated, have an easy way to check it, and have it automatically remind people. Or you're saying, okay, I'm only, you know, in the same home, I'm house hacking, and the person's just downstairs, and I want to separate the relationship a little bit and not make it feel like I'm applying a late fee if you pay late and it's just a standardized process, or automating out some of the processes so you don't have to do everything yourself. Uh, it really doesn't necessarily matter where you're located.
Well, and it creates a more professional experience, right? So even if you only
Absolutely.
have one unit, I think it gives everybody a little bit more comfort just in the way things are operated. It's housed, the information is housed in a central location. So it makes it just a little bit easier for you as an owner because now you're not running around. I know when I first started investing, one of the biggest challenges I faced was, really just having to work through all the various uh, pieces of information and where to get them from, the landlord tenant ordinance to, where we put our leases to where we kept security deposits and so many other aspects of it, how a tenant, actually put in a ticket request, right? So back then it was shoot me an email, right? They would shoot me an email. There was an issue. So I think there is a lot of benefit, even if you only have one property. There's a lot of benefit in being able to centralize that and make it more professional and in being able to remove some of that guesswork for not just you, but for that tenant who may be a little hesitant in working with you, particularly if you're a first time property manager or property owner. Talk to me more about that first time property owner. So, that experience is a little different maybe for the person who owns property, but if this is your first time, what are some of those perks and benefits of being able to work with a platform like RentRedi?
Yeah, one of the biggest is honestly just smart defaults. So when you come onto the platform, one of the things that we've tried to build into it over the years is, you, John, may come on with your portfolio and ask certain questions about, hey, the way I want to set up, for example, my automatic late fees is I want a 5 day grace period. I want to charge $50 first day, $5 every day until I get to this 5% cap that my state says I can't go over. Or I want to automatically remind tenants the day that it's late and every day after that. Those types of things we can build into the platform, automatically set up for you, give you a chance to modify them or change them. But if you're coming in saying, this is my first time, I don't want to necessarily have to make that decision about when should I be setting up these automatic reminders, or even just prompting you to ask, hey, should you be depositing funds into a different bank account for security deposits and holding those separately, not commingling funds there. It leads you to hopefully avoid some of the missteps you might make in your first time investing, because it doesn't feel like your first time. It feels like you're getting to build your platform on the backs of everybody else that has used it before you, and then the process that was tweaked based on their feedback along the way. So we've really tried hard to apply that to not just rent collection, but everything on the platform, using that as the example. But just so that you can always change it, you can always customize it if you want to, but you don't have to necessarily come in and say, oh God, all right, I got to build my own application from scratch. No, you have an application that you can use. And if you want to modify it, change it to your liking in every which way, you absolutely can. But also, if you want to just use the out of the box and get started and at least know that you're doing something that a lot of tens of thousands of other landlords are doing, it gives some comfort, I think, to knowing you're getting to build it off of some of the past knowledge that's come before you.
Now, I think it's helpful to understand that to your point, when you can centralize those learnings and have some of that built in, it eliminates some of the mistakes I think those first time landlords make. So it's really great to have a platform that helps people from that standpoint. What kind of complaints do you get? Right? I mean, anytime you're building something, there's got to be some drawback. So what are the complaints that you hear from users?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is just figuring out how do we build something in a way that helps everybody, right? So the approach that we've really tried to take over the years is building things that are flexible enough that they work just as well if you own a property in a small town in Texas, or if you own a property close to Boston, Massachusetts. It doesn't necessarily matter where you are or how big your portfolio is. We've tried to make it really flexible. So I think one of the challenges, certainly as we built more things into the platform over the years, has been, okay, how do we do this in a way that it doesn't feel overwhelming if you don't want to necessarily customize and change everything, but at the same time, it has enough flexibility to serve very different portfolios or even very different properties within the same portfolio. If you're purchasing properties in different markets that require different lease structures, different rent collection structures, or late fee models, or applications, or anything like that.
Got it. All right. And when are you going to start adding to the portfolio yourself? I mean, when are you looking to join some of those property owners that you're helping right now?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I spend all of my focus at this point. I look at the RentRedi portfolio as my own. How can I help everybody on the platform grow more? So um, I'm building it every day.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, listen, RentRedi is the platform, RentRedi.com. If you want to learn more, you can go to that website. We're going to go into our round of insights, though. So, Ryan, are you ready?
Absolutely.
All right, give me a failure or an apparent failure that set you up for later success.
Yeah, I think the initial failure for me was the first version of building RentRedi. Like I said, it was not a overnight success where I just built something and immediately people adopted it. And one of the things that taught me along the way was there was an invaluable amount of feedback I could get if I could get anything out there and let people start using it. And once they started using that, I started getting the feedback I needed to build exactly what they needed and nothing they didn't. And so that has been a core part of how I look at anything I do going forward, since I'd like our whole team to always look at that going forward into the future, and how we always have. It's just constantly using that feedback loop of asking the customer, what's your problem? How do we solve this? Try to build that, measure the feedback again, and just repeat on that process.
Outside of your own app, give me a mobile app or resource, digital resource that you recommend for your business.
Yeah, so a great one for us was Intercom. It's a live chat software. I love it because it, unlike a ticketing system or an emailing system where you send in an email and it's dead, in terms of the creative juices that someone's sending in when they're saying, hey, I have this idea about a feature, it really does enable you to have real conversations in real time with people about what are they thinking, the nuances of what they're talking about, really try to understand the person that you're talking to on the other side of things. So I really like that because it encourages genuine conversation that I think ends up with more valuable feedback or more valuable solutions you can create out of that, no matter what you're building, really.
Give me the book you've recommended or gifted the most in the last year.
The Lean Startup, and I'll preface it with, it's not just for startups. I don't even think it's just for businesses. I think it's a great way to think in life in general, but the Lean Startup is one of my favorites.
All right. What's a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals?
Yeah, I would say I create a lot of dashboards, metrics for myself about what are the most important things. I obviously write down my metrics or write down my goals initially, but then being able to actually look at those, see how they're going. I do believe if you can't measure it, you can't impact it. So being able to at least glance at that at least once a day, if not more, to just understand, okay, what are we doing? How can we improve? I think it's important to constantly ask that question to yourself.
And are those business dashboards or personal dashboards, a combo?
I think it can be anything, it could be business dashboards. It could be how much am I working out or going and playing basketball or soccer or whatever I want to do in life. I just, whatever my goals that I've written down, how am I working towards those? And just having a little reminder of what that is.
Do you have those like printed somewhere, or do you just pull them up on a screen or on a spreadsheet or something?
So some of them I actually set as my computer backgrounds. So I have a couple monitors, so each monitor will have a different one. Other ones I keep as bookmarks so that I can, open them up and look at them anytime easily. So I keep, different folders for different goals within
There you
my
go.
my toolbar, and then each of them under those.
All right, interesting. Like the approach. All right, give me your number one insight. I'm gonna say for being an independent property owner.
Yeah, I would say talk to your tenants, talk to your customers. We talk about it as businesses sometimes. I think it's really important, even as investors, to continue talking to them. I think it helps you get to the core of what you should be building, how you should be pricing your units, how you should be looking for tenants, or what you should be screening for. So I think just having conversations, whether it be with tenants or agents you work with, partners you work with, I think constantly having those conversations and asking what could be different, what could we improve, what could be more efficient is important.
I love it. I love it. And the last one here. Are you still in New York, or where do you live now?
I am still in New York.
All right, give me your favorite place to grab a bite to eat.
So it's a really hard one, but I'm gonna go with Uva. It's an Italian restaurant. They have really good gnocchi there, so that's one of my favorites.
All right, we'll have to put that one on the list there. I appreciate that. It gave us a
Absolutely.
lot of good information. I appreciate hearing your story of RentRedi, and obviously, it sounds like a platform that's helping independent property owners. So, if you're interested, you could check that out. Beyond that, though, just listen to your journey of overcoming those challenges. Really committing to this idea, programming it, partnering with your dad to kind of get the thing off and running. Raising capital for that VC round and being able to grow and scale to the point where you're at, $15 billion of units under management now. So that's huge. And I think it just shows that there's a lot of opportunity, particularly for those independent apartment owners. Again, if you want to learn more and consider RentRedi for your business, check out rentredi.com. That's Ready, REDI. Ryan, I want to thank you again for coming on Multifamily Insights. We look forward to staying in touch with you, and we'll hope you have a great day.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it.